Hello and welcome to Updog Sports Talk. If you are finding us here for the first time, here at Updog Sports Talk, we deliver honest, fair, focused coverage. It's not like the tours, the athletes, and communities that are often overlooked by the joint sports media. We do this because your tour has a story worth telling. And listen, we are very excited to dive into the storylines, the tours of all of the match. Our podcast, we like to we're both going to do it outside of the Jonas Club. I have a special guest with us. Audio.
Thanks for having me, Justin. As always, I really appreciate it. And maybe I'm not qualified to talk about the Mac anymore since I don't live in Mac country anymore.
Yeah, I know. NIU decided to go and leave for the Mountain West. So, Mountain West territory. Maybe until Illinois State joins the conference.
Yeah, it's chaos, that's for sure.
You never know what conference we align with. Here in Cincinnati, we're pretty much we're in national ACC, we're in Big 12, Big 10, all of the above territory.
Well, I could be in Mac country again very soon because Illinois State is having a meeting with fans and different donors and such next week, and I think that there's going to be talks about possible FBS move, but we'll see.
Scheme. Right, I like that. A little bit of good insight here to
That
get
that
us.
means I could be 25 minutes away from Mac country instead of an hour and a half.
Yeah, you are literally smack dab in that country at that point.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. So we'll be going into the match, right? We'll be going team by team once again because your team has a story worth telling. So we'll be looking at what each team's biggest strengths, biggest reasons to be excited about 2026. What concerns, what might keep you awake at night, trying to think about your tour, and what does success look like in 2026. So this preview will be a nice, insightful look, not the deepest preview, otherwise we just recorded with last all night. You will find a more in-depth preview every match program on our Substack. But for some, Bobby Wilson also has his preview series going on where he goes position by position, by four. You can expand upon your preview.
Well, I'll be the first to say that the way I do previews isn't necessarily for everyone. I understand that. I come from a coaching background. I'm a former college head basketball coach, so I tend to want to dive into position by position and break it down that way. So the way I do it is a little different than say the way others do it. I don't like doing record predictions and such. I'll give variances on where I think that they might land, but at the same time, that's I don't feel like that's my wheelhouse. But like I said, like I try to give coaching insight more so than like this or that or whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I very much enjoy your coaching insight. Like, I think that's the beauty of our community, at least on Twitter, is like, all of us
Hmm.
my team previews, but each of us has like a different perspective. So even though I'm working on my own previews, I enjoy reading yours because it gives that kind of coaching insight to me. We will be giving some predictions tonight. Each of us will be giving a potential sleeper and our topic tip. We'll be doing that here at the end of the episode, but to start off, let's jump into the two of these headlines just before this recording. Actually, is this. Someone's going to be their optical coordinator for the Robin Morris series, so that will be pretty exciting. What is another thing to be most excited about?
Well, as funny and as quirky as that offensive coordinator for the first drive thing might be, this offense is actually going to be pretty good. Their running back Jordan Gant is he's a really solid player. I personally drafted him on my college fantasy football team. This guy he's a good player. He maybe other than Jalen Buckley, I think it's those two. Jalen Buckley from Western Michigan being the best back in the league. They got a really good receiver and Marcel Williams as well. He had a really good freshman season. Akron's lucky that they kept both those guys out of the portal because those two guys I firmly believe could have gotten some good money somewhere. You look at their quarterback situation. I think guys that are crazy college football fans like us will remember Reese Poffenberger from U Albany the year he had while he was there, that last year he was there, I should say, he was fantastic, and he's just kind of he transferred to the FBS level, and he's been behind two really historic type guys going to Miami. than last season. I believe Oklahoma State, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, he's had some kind of bad luck when it comes to the guys that he's been behind. But at the same time, like he's going to come in here, and I think that he could really do some good things. This, like I said, this offense I think could really do some damage. And with their head coach Joe Moorhead, that's his focus, obviously. This this team could be fun to watch. It really could be.
Yeah, I'm very excited, and you've got exactly what I was probably most excited about with this team is the additional Reese Poffenbarger. Expanding upon that a little bit, like he transferred to Miami for a great year at Albany. I think at that point, like he was actually slated to be a starter. Don't forget, Cam Ward came in late onto that team. So when Cam Ward comes in, he has to be the number one overall pick. The next year, of course, it's very easy to mix these two up. It was North Texas, North
Yes,
Texas.
North Texas. That's my fault. They're the same team.
North Texas, at least if the Cliff Notes were to be believed, who went toe to toe to Mexico, who ended up being a top 10 quarterback. Actually, you either Reese Poffenbarger as your star quarterback or a top 10 quarterback. It's a win for you. Yeah, you got all the work done out there. I'm very excited about this Akron offense. I mean, the defense does have for a sneaky good element to it. The defense was pretty feisty last year. It's kind of funny because, like you said, Joe Moorhead offensively minded philosophy this year. So, what is your biggest concern?
Well, I think I'll just say the defense as a whole, but I'll focus on potentially the secondary, where it's all new starters, all new guys back there. In the MAC tends to be kind of it depends who you're playing, obviously, but the MAC can be pass heavy again, depending on who you're playing. So they're going to be tested week in, week out. And you kind of look at who they play early on, going to Wake Forest, going to Minnesota, hosting UNLV. You're going to play some offenses that are going to move the ball down the field a little bit. So I think that would be my concern number one looking at.
Yeah, and really that schedule for sure is something that I'm not a big fan of. You got three really tough non-conference games, although I do think it's really cool that UNLV is traveling to Akron. I think that's kind of a unique cross-sectional game there. But that is really difficult. Really, their draw within the MAC. I know the MAC is a little bit unpredictable sometimes, but for the most part, it feels like Akron drew a lot of those. So not only do you either need to pull a big upset, or you're potentially looking at 103 in the face. 103 out of wins, you got to go 5-3 in that place just to make it whole. So that's going to be pretty difficult schedule. And also, I think kind of, does that schedule like if you could fall on depth front on the defensive line? I feel like kind of because depth was a little unfair. So we hope not to see that get tested. You never know what the team.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just go down the line of the defense and you just maybe question the depth across the board, honestly.
Yeah, especially with like playing a physical team like Minnesota, that's gonna be pretty tough.
Mhm.
But what's the success look like for the Akron Zips?
Well, I think they surprised a lot of people last year, going 5-7 and 4-4 in the league, not being able to make a bowl last year. I give them a lot of credit for finishing the way that they did. I mean, they played with a lot of pride and they played hard and they improved throughout the season. So you got to give them a lot of credit. They won 3 of 4 to end the year, so you hope maybe that builds a little bit of momentum. But like we've said, that the opening of that schedule is tough. But at the same time, like maybe they can pull off an upset. We'll see. But I think again, just showing that you're continuing to build, I think is important for this program. I think if you get to 5 wins again, I think that's impressive. If you make a bowl, that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like a bowl game is pretty much what I had slated for this team. I think if you can make a bowl, that's next step. They have been waiting for a bowl for Akron for several years now. I think that would be a very encouraging progress. Not that, they win like 4 or 5 games. I don't think the pitchforks would come out for Joe Moore. But I do think that bowl game, that bowl game would have feeling.
And I think they have what it takes to get there with that offense. They're going to score a lot of points. So I think that they can do enough to get to that.
Exactly. This is definitely a team with the potential to get it done. Really just be a factor right towards the top of the map. that 5-3 record mentioned before, like that could still have you in the mix, depending on how crazy things get. But our next thing is the Ball State Cardinals. Year two under Mike Yovanovich. The Cardinals looking to take a step forward. Bobby, what are you most excited about when you look at this?
I think this team is going to be pretty good on the offensive line, and if you know their head coach, he's a big stickler and focuses really well on that. So I think that in the trenches, this is a team that's going to be really physical. They might not have as much back on the defensive side on the defensive line, but at the same time, like this is a team that's really going to focus on playing the right way and doing the things that they're supposed to do. I think they understand that staff does that they're not going to have like this team that's going to out athlete everybody. So I think that they really understand and focus on fundamentals and playing the right way, and I think they do a really good job.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a lot to like about that offensive line. Now, there's kind of a few lost starters there, but then again, like you've got the massive Chris Hood there. What is he like 6'10"? Something ridiculous like that. So it's always good to have a big, tall man protecting your quarterback. And I think I'm excited about the quarterback, no matter who is the start. I think whether it's Luster, well, or maybe a little bit of both. I think whoever plays the quarterback for the Cardinals this year will prove to be an upgrade.
I think either way, it's a plus for them because I think they'll be able to pass the ball better than they have, especially over the past couple of years. So I think it's an upgrade no matter who it ends up being. Luster has that pedigree coming from multiple stops, but at the same time, like he hasn't had the necessary production on the field at the college level. But if he can pull that out, like what he was showing in high school, this team could be a real surprise.
Yeah, agreed. But what concerns you the most?
I'm gonna probably say like Akron on the defensive side of the football, you have some question marks. Linebacking core with new pieces, new faces. Secondary has plenty of new faces too. But I think in the MAC especially, you're gonna have to deal with that. I think that you're just gonna have guys coming and going, especially in today's world of college football. I just think that that's something that these programs got to live with, and they just got to continue to work through it. And I think programs like Ball State, with the coaching staff they have, I trust that staff to do it the right way, and I think they'll find what works for them.
Agreed. And overall, unlike Akron, State doesn't appear to have that star that can kind of be a little bit of an equal. I think that's kind of one thing to watch there. But really, for me, I want to see the team play better on the grade this year. I think last year, Jeremiah one helped us, really establish Muncie is a tough place to play again. I know that's been a nightmare for Mac for years. They brought that back, taking down Ohio last year. And far and one at home overall. But their problem was playing right. They really struggled on this. Once again, this year, they only have 500. If you're going to make a bowl, including home games are pretty tough. You've got to upset teams at home, or you still have to go on the road and win at least one of them.
Exactly, and I'll just share this story. I visited Muncie a couple years ago. UConn played there, and they laid an absolute egg. They should have won that game. I was not very happy, but at the same time, like I had on a UConn hat, and their fans were thanking me for being there, and it's I think that that's probably the first time that's ever happened. Now I've been to like Iowa State where they've done some really cool things from a fan perspective, but I was just really impressed by the fans that were there and the fact that they would thank somebody who's there to watch the opposing team. I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Overall, like they seem like a nice, friendly environment. And this year, I'm hoping to make it to a Ball State game. I've not been there yet, and I'm looking to experience that. So hopefully, I can make it to one of those. So, there's the jokes out there, but in all reality, it just seems to work on my calendar where I might be able to go to the Ball State Sacramento State game. You can kind of put your hopes on the games for that. But if I'm going, I'm looking to do the professional capacity, which I'll avoid.
Yeah, I just had to share that because it was a really cool experience, just like a really good group of people, and as you go to away games, like I try to be impartial, obviously, but I think everybody knows my love and passion for UConn football. So when they're that close to me, I had to go, and I'm supporting them, and at the same time, like just for them to do that, I was very that stuck with me.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it makes you want to root for them a little bit. Like,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, they're a good group. At least all the Ball State fans I've interacted with have all been really good to me. So looking forward, to hopefully more of it. But what does success look like? What will make those Ball State fans happy?
I mean, of course, you want to go to a bowl game, obviously, but I think just seeing progress, I think that's important. They went 4-8 last year. I, 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 I don't want to say it's a stretch for them to get to a bowl this year, but I think it'll be a little bit harder. I mean, you got to go to Ohio State, you got to go to Liberty, you got to go to Northwestern. That's not easy by any means. So you got to make your hay in conference play. You got to go 5-3 in conference play at least. So can they do it? I mean, I think the MAC is wide open to where anything's possible. And if they get the quarterback play that I think that they could potentially get, that offensive line plays at the level that they're capable of, and the defense steps up, like anything is possible. But I just think you want to see progress. Now, what does progress look like? I think from a fan perspective, you look at wins and losses, but I think that you can look at this team. Maybe they have the same record at 4-8. Maybe they're 5-7. But I think if you look at them on the field and you see the development that's happening, I think then that you feel good about
Agreed. I actually was thinking right along the same lines of you. As long as the team looks like they're getting better, I think fans will be happy with that. I think really the only number that sticks in my mind is going 4-4. I think getting a 500 record in conference play feels like pretty good progress. But yeah, I feel like that. I feel like that looks like good progress for them. Especially enough where okay, you're feeling pretty promising. Maybe a little more continuity. We're looking at Ball State potentially going for a bowl or even more. Like that.
it. I agree.
Now next, we go to Ohio. There's the Bowling Green Falcons. Here's who under Eddie Joy. What do you expect from the guys that don't play for you? Robbie, what do you see as the biggest strength or reason
There's not a lot of
out of
returning
Eddie?
starters, that's for sure. But at the same time, like there's some solid players on this roster that I think you can get behind. I think the quarterback transfer of Austin Novosad, if you know his background and how highly touted he was as a recruit, I think if he plays to the level he's capable of, that things could take off at Bowling Green. I mean, this young man was behind Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore. I mean, he's had to work through it, but he's learned from some really good players. And obviously, if Dan Lanning and that coaching staff think you're good enough to be on that roster, you obviously know how to play football. So I'm really excited to see what he can do because I think if he plays up to the potential that he's capable of, I think this offense and this team can take off.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, last year looked pretty rough. Like if you look at it, really one of the biggest glaring holes for the team was the quarterback position. That was a huge struggle for them. So if Novosad proves to be lift up to the pedigree, that would be huge for the school. I am excited about the run game. Austin Gundy is a really talented running back, and this defense is going to look good once again. Got Eric George, and George's time on the defensive line. Al Pasco and secondary, leading the way there. Overall, like I feel good about what the secondary looks like for the Falcons. They're the lost awards on the defensive side of the ball. And also, Pringle, an linebacker, he was right there with eating on ESPN Wednesday, having a fantastic year, and he ends up getting hurt and nothing left of the season. So Pringle is a huge. There's a lot of as a Blue fan, I'm excited. One years we get concerned.
The start of the schedule, that in the first couple weeks is very tough. Like those first 5 games, I know people are going to look at Tarleton State being an FCS team. Tarleton State beat Army last year, so that's a team that's for real. That's a top 5 team at the FCS level. They're trying to move up to the FBS. Like that is a really good program. Then you follow that up going to Nebraska, going to Iowa State, hosting South Florida, and then the first MAC game is at Miami, Ohio. So getting through that's going to be tough. At the same time, what's your record going to be? I mean, 1-4, 2-3. I mean, I think if you're 2-3, I think you're pretty happy, to be completely honest. Obviously, you want to win every game, but at the same time, I think you got to be realistic too. But you got to just get through that stretch healthy because the back half of the schedule, going to Western Michigan, going to Toledo are tough, but at the same time, the back half is significantly more manageable. You just need to stay healthy, is the way I look at
Yeah, and again, also like the mindset of the locker room too is going to be huge, just
it.
because the start of the schedule is so brutal, and you combine that with how last year ended with the 1-5 finish, and all of a sudden you're staring in the face of being like 2-9 in your last 11 games. What kind of toll does that take on the locker room? That's going to be because obviously Eddie George is one of the greatest leaders, one of the best people you could possibly have, even in such a tough situation. If anyone can rally the team, I mean, he can do it. Like, that's still going to be a major hurdle for this team over time. I mean, that game is tough to say. There you go. It's going to be the there you go. It is, they're scared, but they are.
I agree. I mean, I think just building and just continuing to build on that identity for this team and this program is going to be key. That's I mean, if you don't have a distinct path and identity as a program and as a staff, like you're going to have a really hard time and you're going to struggle. And I think Eddie George is a really good guy for this spot. I mean, obviously he's Eddie George. I mean, who wouldn't? Part of me thinks kids today don't necessarily care about, they don't know who he is as a player. But I think if you just Google him real quickly, like you'll know how important he is to college football and
Yeah,
to the state of Ohio itself. So I think that any young man that's being recruited by Bowling Green should really take the time to sit down and look at that and just know, like, okay, you're going to
right.
go and play for a man who knows what he's doing, and he's got good character. It certainly seems, and he's built winning cultures in the past.
Absolutely. And we're seeing it start from the beginning. Like he is recruiting high school recruits at a crazy level right now. Historic recruiting classes are coming in. So the future looks great, but um I think in terms of, and I think you already kind of hinted at this a little bit, what does success look like?
I think with how difficult the schedule is, I think if you can get to 6-6, that's a pretty good year, honestly. And I'm sure that's not probably what fans want to hear, but I think like if you're being realistic, last year 4-8, 2-6 in the MAC, finishing as terribly as they did down the stretch. I think if you can manage that early stretch like we talked about, and if you can get to a point by mid-season where you're 1-4, but then you win say 3 of 4 or 4 or 5 or whatever it may be, I think that really shows significant progress right there.
Agreed. As an alum, I want to see us just, I see it. I want to see us just make a bowl. I'll be very happy with that. Now, I want to get to the MAC championship eventually again. Not been since I was in college there. And there's like a group of us that we're saying like, anytime they ever make it, we're all going. I'm waiting to go back. I want to get to the MAC championship. Might not be the year for it. I'm not going to rule that because, the path to really take off. The sky's the limit. It might not be the fastest thing, but still, like, yeah, you have a better, like, yeah, a bunker and showing tangible progress. The offense in particular, finding who your quarterback is going to be. I would go for the two big keys. Yeah, I think you get those two figured out. I think it's pretty good.
I agree.
As an athlete, would also like to see a bowl win because that also is not happening. Next, we just see the Buffalo Bowl. So do you like a cute Lambo? Very strange young situation as well. One, they massively overachieved. You two, kind of didn't pull out as expected. Ended up missing out on the Virgil, now the Bulls, like to try to get back. It's like two.
I I might sound like a bit of a homer here, but I really like Josiah Gathings, former UConn Husky. He was also at Akron before that. He was an All MAC performer at Akron. Goes to Buffalo. Really, he's been a really solid receiver for them. They lost some really good receivers to the Power Four ranks, so I think he's going to play a big role. But I also think that the secondary is going to be really good. So I look at that secondary to take care of business and kind of be like a no-fly zone type of team, where teams are going to have to run the ball against them to beat this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, secondary, it's had its struggles the last couple of years, but with so much continuity back there, I'm expecting a huge step forward. So I'm in the same boat with you on that one. And yeah, overall, there's just a lot of instead of trying to go the route that some of these teams go, or trying to find your journeyman quarterback out of the portal, I think they got some promising young quarterbacks that are really pretty good. And I'm expecting to see to get back to that more ready physical style. They kind of lost a little bit of that last year, but I think you'll see that as well be reinforced this year.
Yeah, I think you just look at this team and this program, like they have a coach who's respected in the league by his peers. I think that says a lot. I think he's at an institution and a program as well that doesn't necessarily hasn't had the success over historical perspective. I mean, there's been times obviously where Buffalo has won. Like you can look at some of the coaches that they've had in the past, Leipold and others as well, that have won and then went on somewhere else. I think Lembo is very happy and satisfied with where he is. I don't think he's necessarily looking like if he has a couple boom years that he's going to look to just move to the next spot. I think he knows the kind of the MAC is his niche type area that he can thrive in.
Yeah, agreed. And he's trying to do a lot off the field too to try to get
Mm.
this program, get more fans excited about this program. Buffalo is usually an area that's behind any team, but they haven't really gotten behind the Bulls, and that's something that I hope changes in the future. Now, whether or not that requires them using the track, that's a different story. One of only two FBS teams with track in the field. They'll need to
Highly
develop that.
recommend doing that.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the key things. Although, you want to tell you, one of the coolest that the game last year, one of the coolest things about the track, if you make it a party, there's a food truck on the track. While you're waiting in line for food, you're looking straight at the action on the field.
You can't beat that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if I'm gonna be in line, looking at live football games, you feel good.
I guess maybe we don't remove the track.
Oh, cool. Things. So, other than the track, what is your biggest concern for the Giants this year?
Other than the track, well, I they just had stretches, and this isn't just necessarily this team, but they've had stretches where they just have looked good, and then they've had like stretches of weeks where they just don't look like the same team. And to me, that's a little concerning from a coaching perspective because, like I said, I like Coach Lembo. I think he does a really good job, but it's a little bit concerning when you look at this team and where they'll have like a 3 or 4 game stretch where they just don't look like the same team that they looked weeks prior. So to me, that's a concern. If I'm a fan, if you're watching this team and you just don't know what you're going to get week in, week out, that inconsistency, I think that's something that you can. I don't want to say be concerned about, but I think you just need to be thinking about as a fan.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm wondering if Lembo's kind of catching on to that a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because last year it felt like they tried to use the portal to plug in gaps. Something didn't seem to mess there really. And I think you're seeing kind of a more in-house developed team this year.
And I think that that's beneficial for a program like Buffalo. I think certain programs can really benefit from that. I look at a team like UConn that I follow very closely, and like with Jason Candle. Jason Candle's great at that of getting players, retaining them, and developing them. I think certain programs really need to focus on that. A program like Buffalo, who's kind of like out on their own in a way. I mean, I know Syracuse isn't like terribly far away, but like Buffalo and Syracuse aren't really terrible as Power Four group of six, kind of getting different guys, if we're being honest. But at the same time, I think if you find your area that works for you as like a coach and then developing those players, excuse me, and getting them to be what you want them to be, and then retaining them is the key thing, obviously. But I think that a program like Buffalo can have a lot of success too.
Completely. And I think in general, one of the other areas I'm looking at kind of while they're trying to play tougher, I do think that run defense is something they'll need a big step forward there. I'm not sure if I see an obvious massive over 300-pound man that's going to suddenly step in and help that. So they'll maybe get strategic about trying to stop the run a little bit better. And they definitely have a rough go with that. I do think the game is probably flipped a little bit because last year they had a lot of problems with like 1 or 4 losses. Then actually the game I was at, they finally flipped it and won the 1 or 4 game. Um, so maybe they didn't get tiger passes all of that. Yeah, I think that's going to be really a big thing.
One of those one score losses against UConn, I wasn't upset.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like those, some of the one score losses were against Troy and UConn. Like those are good
Mhm.
games. You think,
I hate to sound like a broken record, but I think like for most of the MAC teams, I think success looks like bowl eligibility. I think that this is a team though that can strive for more than that, getting to the 7-5, maybe even 8-4 mark. Like if you look at their non-conference schedule compared to other teams in the MAC, like U Albany at FIU, at Penn State, Robert Morris. Now you're playing two FCS teams, so that's obviously a ding against you. You got to get 7 wins now, depending on what happens from a bowl perspective. But at the same time, like you can gain some momentum against that schedule. I think they can certainly win at FIU. I think FIU's well coached, but that's a more than winnable game for Buffalo. Penn State's got a new team. You see MAC teams upset Big Ten teams. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but like crazier things have happened, obviously. So I think that this team, I think a bowl game, like I said, is a good season, but I think that this is a team and a program that should strive for a little bit more.
yeah, man, Buffalo upsetting Penn State. I just
Now,
keep thinking, oh, that's in my head. That would be absolutely glorious. Yeah, give me that all day. That would be fantastic. Yeah, we would have to take Buffalo top 25 possibly. But
again, not calling
are you sure? We can still.
that. I mean, the last I was at the NIU upset over Notre Dame, so anything can happen.
True, especially in the MAC. But yeah, I'm thinking a winning record. We're looking for them getting around that 7-5, 8-4 range would be successful. I mean, 6-6, and you slide into a bowl for whatever reason doesn't isn't bad either. But I think they want to work towards being a bad contender because getting the community of Buffalo behind you, all these players dealing with that, playing it more of that. I think that's going to be the big thing. Now we get to Central Michigan, the Chippewa. That Drigo brought a lot of excitement here. What are you most excited about?
I love this team. I love head coach Matt Drinkle and just the mindset that he's instilled in this team. The physicality that they play with, the focus that they have, and I don't think anybody that knows his background is surprised by that with him coming from West Point. But this team just plays football the way you're supposed to play it. And if you've ever been to Mount Pleasant, I've been there. I played a game there in high school. It is it's a different place. It's kind of off the beaten path, but at the same time, like this is a program and an institution that loves their team, and when they're good, they support it at a high level. Like I said, I think just the thing that like jumps off the page to me, like again, I look at it from a coach perspective, and I'm like, I just love how they play the game the right way, the physicality that they play with offensively and defensively. That's an offensive line that you don't want to come across in the back alley. Those guys, that's a fun group.
I'm very, very excited for that group. And I'll go ahead and say that as well. Like that often, I mean, if you love or miss old school college football
Yes.
with a tough, gritty offensive line and a fullback in there, Central Michigan is here. This team is going to offer a lot of. This offensive line now, like they are strong and physical, but not only that, they are also one of the they are the most experienced offensive line in the league. I believe maybe the fourth most experienced offensive line in FBS in terms of number of stops, according to Country Rise and things like that. Yeah, I mean, so not only like you got strength and experience, I mean, this line is going to be a problem. No one's going to look forward to playing this year. So I'm really excited to see that. I really love the ball very well. That receiver Lacy West is going to have to pass through. So this team is a contender this year. So what would maybe some concerns be about the potentially conference power of the team?
I just want to say one more thing. Like, if a college football fan, tune into their first game of the season. They play at New Mexico State, or at New Mexico, sorry. It's going to be at night. I believe it's on FS1, I want to say. That game, you're going to see two fantastic coaches, and it's just going to be such a physical football game. Like you were saying, it's going to remind people of football from yesteryear. Like if you love that type of football, tune into that game. That's going to be a lot of fun. But I guess the thing that would concern me is the defense returns three starters, and they were middle of the pack in the MAC last year. So you just look at like the back end of the defense doesn't have a ton back. You got transfers that you're going to really need to step in and hope that they produce at a high level. The offense is going to control time of possession, you would believe, with how they're going to play. So that I think that's really going to benefit the defense. But the defense is going to have to make stops and timely stops when it's needed.
Yeah, agreed. Especially against some of the tougher opponents, that secondary is going to be tested in a big way. That's the area that I'm kind of looking at as potential concern as well. We need to see Flores stay healthy at quarterback this year. He was very promising when he was healthy, but then injuries started to hit. He became a little bit less accurate. So we're going to need to see a higher percentage of passes go forward. But yeah, that's all their defense trying to do this. And really, against the tougher teams in the schedule, it's really be tough because while they were against most teams, usually when they play some of the top teams, how far you struggle with those games and really might get out of control pretty quickly. So, they took a step to good very quickly last year, but now they get to the lead. That's going to
Agreed.
be a great deal. So what's all the statistics like they checked before?
Well, I've talked to some people on their staff and like even some of the radio people, and they really believe that this team can contend and win a MAC title. And I'm not going to disagree with that. I think I'm going to come out and say it already that this team is probably my sleeper. I think there's three or four teams that you can look at that can really win this league, and I think that they might be like that next tier down if from a national perspective. But I think that this team really has what it takes to contend for a league title. I don't think that 6-6 should be what they're shooting for. I think this team should be shooting for. They went 7-6, 5-3 in the league last year. I think that this is a team where you should be shooting for to get to 7-5 again or 8-4 and improving that MAC win total. I don't think you're looking to stay the same. I think taking that next step, maybe going 6-2 in conference play. They get Western Michigan at home. They're playing Eastern Michigan at Ford Field in Detroit. They got to go to Ohio, but the rest of the MAC schedule sets up really well for this team. Honestly, there's a stretch from October 17th until November 18th where they don't leave the state of Michigan for a game because there's that game at Ford Field and then everybody else is at home. So I think that this team can really go on a run and have some success this season.
That's a good call out about that stretch too. Like that is a very nice long period of time where they don't have to hit the road during a critical part of the year. I'm definitely having my eyes around like an 8-4 record or so for them. I think that looks pretty good. Again, like all of the elements are there to just to compete for a MAC title. But if they fall a little bit short of that, I don't think anyone's going to be upset. Like I think they're going to feel pretty good about that. Like at least being you'll feel good about that. Western Michigan is at home, so like you mentioned, guys from home with that direct from Michigan Cup is going to be the other thing I think because
As a guy from Michigan, the Michigan MAC game, I know from a national perspective, people might not look at it as a big deal, but the Michigan MAC games are important. And when you grow up in that state, I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to attend or play at those institutions, and I went a different route, but at the same time, like, those rivalries are important to me as a fan and as somebody who's followed them closely.
yeah, absolutely. They are very underrated on a national perspective. What these MAC rivalries are for
Hmm.
sure. It's one of the coolest things out there because you really got to between all three of them. These alums all intermingle with each other, and whoever wins it gets bragging rights for the whole year.
And the cool thing is like each team has had success recently. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like there was a stretch where Eastern Michigan was down, but at the same time, like they've even come up recently under Coach Crichton, who I'm a huge fan of. That's just a side note. But like that, these games have become more and more important, and I love it. Just growing up in that area, I grew up basically smack dab between Central and Eastern, so it's it's just cool to see that these teams are all like solid teams, let's say.
Absolutely. And especially this year, which by the way, I mean, that doesn't have to be a side though. You could have just been making a nice transition to Eastern Michigan. Yeah. Creighton is one of the elder statesmen of the MAC now. He's been in the conference for a while and has done a really good job with this program. What excites you the most?
Well, I already mentioned Coach Brighton. He's one of my favorite coaches in the country. What he's done to fix this program and build it, I don't think people understand like where this program was before he got there. This was arguably the worst program in the country before he took over. And the fact that he's turned them into consistent bowl teams is I think people in Michigan would say it's pretty remarkable, honestly, to just see what he's done. It, they're just down the street from the University of Michigan. Like you can see the big house from that. Like they're like the literal definition of a little brother. Like from a like literal sense. And I know everybody thinks of Michigan State as Michigan's little brother, but I'm just looking at like proximity perspective. But I think the other thing that I get excited about looking at this team is Noah Kim at quarterback. I think he's going to have a good year. He's one of the most highly decorated returning guys at the quarterback position in this conference, and I think that he's going to take a step with another year in this system.
Agreed. And by the way, Chris Crean has made 6 bowl games at Eastern Michigan. They have 8 total in their program's history.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that gives you a perspective just how good of a job he's done here. He is such a great coach. Yeah, I too am excited about Noah Kim in this offense. He's got a top receiver and Lockett back as well. And really, Eastern Michigan had such instability. So finally getting a guy back, someone who's a solid starter, is a huge deal for this offense. And really overall, you've got a lot of internal experience all throughout this roster. You have guys who are entirely just full on and start starting. I know, like last year, even the year before, like the state of movies was before. There's a lot of guys that got on the field and got on the play. And you got pretty good stuff out there. So when this team red zone, they scored most of the time too. I did get this one of the times where they did not. And that was what cost me good stuff there. But otherwise, yeah, they've been pretty good though. Yeah, I think this is a promising year for Houston. Because by the way, you may call Michigan's old brother, Michigan, last the quarter and get blown.
I want to add too that I love that they have Braden Bennett and Noah Kim together. They were both at Coastal Carolina together as a quarterback, running back, and I think that could be exciting for this team too.
That's pretty cool. That is a very cool little thing there. I wonder if Noah Kim was kind of like instrumental in that recruiting of getting Bennett there.
2 quirky color combinations with the gray field and the teal field. I've seen both in person. I will say, the gray field looks a lot better in person than it does like on TV. I know on TV it glares and can look bad, but in person it's actually really cool.
On TV, it's just very funny because it feels like you're watching a game from back in the black and white days. But I'm looking forward to seeing this field in person. And hopefully this year I can get it done. Now, the week 0 game, I was hoping for a bit of an earlier kickoff so I can get home. And really even next week, a Friday night game, I would have to stay up there somewhere. So and maybe later in the year I can get lucky and we can get an earlier kickoff. But I'm definitely hoping to make it.
Don't go. I went to a midweek action game a couple years ago, and it was a great game actually between them and Western Michigan. But it was like 10 degrees. It was awful. I grew up in Michigan, but I'm a little bit older now, and I like grew up playing football in Michigan and outside and all this and that. Like it's what you do and you deal with it. But I'm old now, and my knee is terrible. So like that was a tough night.
Yeah, that will be a little bit cold. Yeah, I remember the only game that I may have potentially have gone to that I potentially would have gone to last year. They were playing Western Michigan. I think that was another one that was like really cold. And my optimistic side was like, oh, I just got back from Colorado. I'm gonna make the trip up there. And I took the week of Thanksgiving. I realized like
Those midweek action games are not for the faint of heart for fans.
No, they are not. It was a cold night. I definitely remember a few of those. before you. I'm saying for the entire thing, but there's one game that was especially cold when DZ is playing Ohio. What Texas had doing last week? We just jumped all over him. It was like 42 to nothing at halftime, and I was like, I've seen all I need to see. But what concerns other than the weather do people you commit to?
The run defense, just absolutely dreadful last season. Allowed 232 rushing yards per game last year. Like you can't do that. Like you got to be better. If they don't improve that, 4-8's on the table again. If they do improve it, I mean, you can get to bowl eligibility. I think it's. I don't ever think you want to say it's that simple because I mean, obviously there's other things that you can improve, but like if you can just be a competent run defense, I'm not saying that you need to be good or elite. You just need to be able to stop a nosebleed. Let's say they couldn't even do that last
Yeah, yeah. I mean, early in the year, optimism quickly waned when the long on shots ran all over them. I made my attempt at the New England accent there. Yeah, when they couldn't stop them from all, you knew trouble was on the rise. They're going to have to get creative and find a way to do this because this is another thing where I kept looking like, I mean, my preview is that I'm just doing as of this recording, so I'm still kind of working on it. But so far, I've not seen like 300 plus pound man, going plug up the hole. We're gonna have to find a way to do it.
year. Absolutely. Again, kind of a broken record. I think success is bowl eligibility. I really do. Like you mentioned earlier, 6 out of their 8 bowls in their history under head coach Chris Crichton. If he can continue to work that magic, I think that's great for this team. The defense, again, like we kind of just said, they have questions. The offense you think will be ahead of the defense. How quickly can you get that defense to shift and do what you want them to do? They get 2 games early at home against Sacramento State and San Jose State. I think it's kind of odd that they're playing 2 California teams. Of course, one of them's a conference game now. We don't have to get into that. But those are 2 winnable games. And I think if you can get off to a good start there, then you feel good moving forward.
Absolutely. And week zero matching. Also, very disappointed that somehow that game did not get a TV slot. I don't know how that was possible. I think also, I'm going to agree with you on this one where a bowl game, I think, is going to feel good for them. And back for a bowl, maybe winning it will feel good. This is a team that has to start pushing towards a winning record. Maybe wins is part of it. It really does. Those first 2 games really set the tone. Like, you could be now and feel really good, or even with one of those probably things are looking a little bit. Now you get to the Penn State Golden Classes. Our Carnival's first year was absolutely miracle. Everyone considered it to have banged the water last year. They didn't even get the bowl game. They were literally one play away from the bowl game. It's like to the most opportunity this year.
Mark Carney's so good. I mean, to do what he did last year, coming off of what they were coming off of, that's one of the best coaching jobs you'll see. And I know that they went 5-7, 4-4 in the league, but if you look at where they were the past couple of years, this was probably the worst program in the country, other than maybe UMass. But at the same time, like what he did was just flat out remarkable. I love their quarterback, Drew DeShields. I played the position, so I love watching quarterbacks, and he just plays the way that you want to see a MAC quarterback play. I love what he can do. I think they have some really good skill guys at the receiver position. I like some of the transfers they got at running back. They just have really. And then the other thing I love about this team is the culture that he's built, and to do it as quickly as he did is pretty remarkable. Just looking at it from a coaching perspective, he got the job so late, and just to see what he did is I just applaud that so much.
It's really remarkable. Building a culture is not easy, but you just see some of these coaches, it just seems natural to them. That's kind of where it's really difficult to know they can do that until they really get the shot. He's one of those guys where it just feels like he just knows exactly what to do to get a strong culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited to see that again. It really just make a rain fun of go into. This is a team that could score in the front. They got speed all around the receiver. You got Lee Harris back. I'm expecting Tom Reelis to start. was a names in college football. I'm expecting him to be more involved in the offense. Last year, he was mostly an impact on return. Actually, personally scored, if I'm remembering correctly, he scored a return touchdown. I think he didn't want to receive a touchdown. I think it was like a 90 something yard receiving. Then this guy is striking. What do you see as potential concerns?
The non-conference schedule is always just so difficult for this team. They have to play 3 games every year to make money. That's just the state of their athletic department and the program. Going to South Carolina, going to Ohio State, going to South Florida is extremely difficult. Obviously, I mean, I think everybody understands what's going to happen in the Ohio State game. You're going there just to look respectable. I think going to South Carolina, like I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I think they can at least go there and like put up a good showing and a good fight. Because I don't think South Carolina is Beamer's coaching for his job. I think that they'll be fired up for that first game, but at the same time, like I think that there's the potential. Like, do they look ahead to future SEC games? And because they play Alabama pretty early, they play Mississippi State early. From their perspective, so are they looking ahead? Um, South Florida in October, that I mean, it's a kind of an odd spot for a non-conference game, but at the same time, like that's a new team too, so it's like, can they go there and maybe surprise? I will say, like, I know I just mentioned like the non-conference schedule is concerning, but I think that this is probably the most favorable non-conference that they've had in quite some time. Like you look at last year, they went to Texas Tech, Florida State, and Oklahoma. Like goodness gracious, what are you supposed to do? And I know a couple years ago they went to like Georgia, Washington, and there was somebody else too. So it's just
They
like,
did
man,
Oklahoma that time too.
yeah, and they were awful. Like they were just horrendous. So it was just like, I know they got to get these payday games, but like I think they can at least put up a fight in a couple of these games.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, definitely playing South Florida is kind of helpful. And man, I was really hoping they would get the return game of that one too. That wouldn't just be a bye game. If Bowling Green was able to get a home game against South Florida, I'm hoping that Kent State can get that also just because it would be great for Kent State to see a home game against, a non-conference, non-FCS. We could still join. Eventually they'll get them again. For me, one of the other concerns I'm looking at is just, I want to see this force to stay. They just, their drive for either they score quickly or they go 3. Well, let's see them get some more first downs and lose the ball. The way they played last year, I feel like it's a tough crowd. It's just working a lot. On the defense, the defense did a pretty solid job. But I think this year we just need to see the full drive a little bit more.
I agree. I think that if they're able to fix that, I think that that really helps propel them to another direction.
Agreed. Those transfer running backs you mentioned earlier could be some of the keys to that, taking pressure off the a little bit. So, what does success look like for Kent State?
I think you look at, they won 5 games last year, but look at the teams they beat. And I don't mean this as a negative because this program was absolutely downtrodden over the past handful of years, but they beat Merrimack, UMass, Bowling Green, they won at Akron, and they won at NIU. They didn't necessarily beat a team that was that great. So I think, can you take a next step and beat one of the more upper echelon teams in the conference? Can you beat Ohio at home this year? Can you beat Miami, Ohio at home this year? I think this is finally a year where you can say that Kent State can absolutely do that. I think that this team should absolutely strive to make a bowl game this year. I think improving that conference record to 5-3 or better is something that they absolutely should be striving to do, and I think it's well with what they have in place here. So again, I think making a bowl at Kent State is tremendous. So I mean, if you do that, you feel really really good.
Great. I feel like for them, you would like to see the schedule kind of pan out a little bit more, where instead of playing some of those teams that are top 4 in the MAC preseason poll, playing some more of those toss-ups at home would have been nice in pursuit of the poll. Because again, like you're looking at a situation that probably need to be 5-3 in conference to make one. But I'm looking at the bowls as the goal as well. I think that would look successful. If they end up 5-7 again, or even slightly regress before they, as long as those things don't look awful while doing so, they're competitive, and it just doesn't quite work out.
you're getting to things like Miami and Ohio at home is tight, at least. So I think it's still feeling pretty good, even though it's still probably not to make a bowl. But I am enjoying it.
Agree. Well, where do I start? You know, year in year out with Miami, Ohio, that you're going to have a really good defense. You're going to have a top 25 special teams unit. So I think that's where you start. You look at like the offense needs to continue to develop, and I think it will. But you look at like what this coaching staff, Coach Martin was at Grand Valley State when I was there. He was the defensive coordinator, and he is a tremendous coach. I can't say enough good things about him. But I know that they may not have as many returning starters that they've had in the past, but you just know that this team is going to play at a high level on the defensive side of football. And they always have really good special teams because they focus on that. Seems like every year they have some young special teams coordinator that gets promoted a couple years later to some big school. And you just know that they're just going to find the next guy and they're going to be.
Great. Like there's a lot to like here. And, it's just been a great culture, three straight MAC championship appearances. They know how to get there. And I think really one of the cool things this year, we really saw them, other than like a few of their top end players who got plucked away, you really saw a lot of continuity there on the field, especially on the offensive line. Like, one of their top linemen gone. Oh yeah, if you got a lot of those guys back, that unit is going to be really strong. If Rodney Nelson of running back, he was really going to have a new threat in that run game. I'm really excited to see that. Overall, I think you look at each level of the school, they were so specific, but they were able to add more in the portal than they lost something that we haven't seen from Miami in the past. It's really a reflection of what we're seeing with this program now, where they are aggressively investing in sports because they want to remain the top echelon team in college football. And I think that's just the best to have a program that's as serious about the team as mine.
Exactly.
And it's a huge thing because just even a few years ago, Miami's NIL budget was very, very low. They were happy. And now all of a sudden you fast forward a few years and they're able to compete with they're able to compete with our energy, or at least the starters. So what does Taylor do with that?
I think the number one thing is the potential quarterback situation. I know Thomas Gostowski has some experience, but it's not a lot. The transfer they got in David McCollum doesn't have experience at all, really either. So I'm not saying that it's an issue, but I think that you have coming into the season, going to Pitt that first game, like Pitt's going to have, that they're going to have an elite defense. And you're asking a quarterback to go out there probably more inexperienced than not to go up against that elite level of a defense. That you could have some question marks. And I mean, later on they play Cincinnati, who is another power conference program. Another one of their non-conference games is against UConn. Jason Candle's going to know Miami, Ohio, and what they're going to do. So you kind of look at some of those things and say, okay, what does the quarterback situation look?
Yeah, that's going to be a huge difference maker for them for sure. Like, Gokowski was, I mean, considering the situation that he came into with how crazy things went toward the end of last year, he performed admirably considering
Right.
that. But needs to work on completing more passes, really just kind of getting in a better passing rhythm of the offense is going to be important for Miami this year. Whether he takes the job or whether McCollum takes it is going to be a huge thing there. So I agree with you that quarterback is going to be a major piece because this kind of hints like what what the expectations are, but like this is kind of you just know how to get this team is looking for that championship and whether this team is good and getting influence or doing for things is going to bring on.
They've been to so many consecutive MAC title games that it's like you just don't see teams continuously do that in the MAC. So I don't want to say that like they have to make the MAC title game again, just because like it's hard to do what they've done. Last year, the way they did it, like you said, with Gutowski coming in, he did perform admirably. He really did. They were behind the eight ball and were able to just find ways to take care of business and such. I know I talked highly about the defense but there is not as much returning from a starting perspective. So I do think that they could take a slight step back. I mean, this is still going to be one of the best teams in the conference, but I think like if this team goes 8-4, 6-2 in the league type of thing, I think you feel really good. Maybe if you don't play in the MAC title game this year, I don't think it's like an end all be all type of thing. Like, it's hard to do what they've done.
Agreed. Yeah. Getting to four straight would be quite the feat. I mean, like, it's one of those weird things where at the same time, this was really the first year we've seen where we're seeing a little bit more continuity than we've seen in the past. Some guys gone, like you mentioned, but there's more continuity here than we've seen from them in a while. It would be disappointing for this of all years to be the year where they fall short. I also, like you said, hundreds of toilet salaries are going to go off if we go 8-4.
Right.
Next, we look at the Ohio Buckeyes. Another coaching change, but this program is going right in the mix of the top of the notch every year. What are some choices that excite you about this year?
I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that this program has won 40 games in the past 4 years with the amount of coaching turnovers that they've had. I just think you have to applaud them for that. That's just so impressive. I think the thing that I look at for them that I think is the most impressive thing coming into the season is that linebacker unit, and then probably the defensive line as well. I think the front half of their defense you feel really really good about, like Jack Fry's at linebacker and some of these other guys they have back there. All three starters return at the linebacker position. I think that's obviously extremely valuable. And then there's good pieces on the defensive line that you feel good about. I think that front of the defense you get excited about because the offense is going to have it's going to look different. Duncan Brune at running back is good. He's a good athlete, but he's one guy. You need other guys to emerge.
Yeah, agreed. Again, like I'm excited about this defense as well. Like I think this is going to be one of the best defenses in the MAC. So that is going to keep Ohio in a lot of games. Now it's all about like what the offense looks like. I like the quarterback options they have. I feel like whoever they end up with starting will end up being pretty good. But it's really going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But no matter what, I'm looking at the defense. It's going to be really good. You know, just the culture has been very strong. Carry them through a lot of things, but the culture is very strong. What do you look at?
I guess you look at the offense and you just say, like, I think Matt Visa coming over from New Hampshire, he's a good quarterback that was productive at that level, but it is a different level at the same time. How does he transition, if he's even the guy that gets the job? I think he will, but how does he make that transition? I think the wide receiver position, you're looking for some guys to develop. I think that's really important. You look at that, like, there's some guys that return, but at the same time, I think you're going to really need transfers to step in and develop. Same thing kind of with the offensive line as well. Another guy I want to talk about, Victor Rosa, coming in from UConn. If he can get out of his own head, that young man is very, very talented. And what I mean by that is he's let fumbles kind of get the best of him sometimes. And if he doesn't, the ability that he has, I don't want to compare him to this player, but like he's got Christian McCaffrey qualities. He's nowhere near the player, but he has some of those qualities as a runner and a pass catch. That you just get him in space and you watch him do things. If he can just hold on to the football, he's going to be a real game changer for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And at receiver, there's just no replacing Chase Hendricks. He was
Right.
a major star for this team. One of the other things I want to look at is like, I want this team to kind of cut down the mistakes a little. Like, it wasn't a huge issue every week, but you saw those issues come up. They let the Rutgers game. They probably should have won that one. They let that one slip away. And mistakes, especially cost them in that Ball State Red Bull, kept them out of that title game. So you look at that and you need to clean those things up, especially because you don't have, Parker Navarro or that. You don't have two hundred for retriever. So the fact that you're able to kind of, well, Navarro also was mistake prone. He was able to help cover up those issues as well. You don't have that this year. So what we're going to do is we'll have more mistakes early. Really, this year is going to be a test. How much
turnovers and this culture support. First coach in 3 years. You can't have that without being a little bit concerned that that could always impact the team. I don't know if it's to be true, but that's something like I'm looking at as a potential.
I agree. Like I know I mentioned 40 wins in 4 years with the turnover that they've had. I think this coaching change this year is obviously different with what transpired. So what does that look like? I mean, I think that the schedule is manageable. Like you look at their non-conference schedule and you say like they go to Nebraska, but other than that, like you look at their non-conference and you're like, hey, they could gain some momentum. So I think that's going to be key for them as well. Go to Nebraska, stay healthy, look respectable, but then come back from that and you can really build off of it.
So what does success look like for the Bobcats this year?
I know they went 9-4 last year, 8-4 regular season, 6-2 in the league. I think that they're capable of doing that. Like you look at their non-conference after Nebraska, it's Jacksonville State at South Alabama and Stone. I personally think that they can and probably should win all three of those games. I think Jacksonville State will be a dogfight just because of the physicality that they play with. But at the same time, like that's a game you can win. Then they go to Kent State. Like, that's a winnable game. Then you host Central Michigan. You go to Sacramento State. It's like I think that they can stack wins here. I really do. To when they get to that back half, when they have to go to Miami and then they host Toledo, they avoid Western Michigan. I think that's important too. I think that this team can stack wins. I think you get back to 8-4, 6-2. I think that's absolutely doable.
Yeah, agreed. I think that would look good. Even 7-5 with a bowl victory is going to be the key because one of the fun facts here, Ohio is riding the second longest bowl win streak in the country. Minnesota's number one with 9. Ohio has 8 in a row. And I think at this point,
I did not know that.
A bowl with us standards is got to keep that streak going. So I definitely think even if you go 7-5, you win a bowl game out of year, you're still feeling pretty good about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get your podcast. That bowl victory is actually pretty important. That streak going on. I personally think that Ohio and Minnesota are below this year. They need to play each other. So Carolina on field, we'll see what happens.
We can't send them to Detroit anymore, unfortunately.
Yes, fortunately. Man, I talked about this off camera, how this happened to me. Apparently, we have it happening again with my camera. Yeah, I just get cameras. Yeah, my camera decided to go out with me, but the show goes on, okay? We go to Sacramento State. Horror. Let's do it down the map. Kind of crazy. Let's get to know.
I think that they have some players defensively that are solid players, like Derek Houston at linebacker, Xavier Williams at defensive end, that you can get excited about. I also like their quarterback, Carson Conklin. He's returning to Sacramento State. He left to go to Fresno State last year, but in 2024 he was an FCS freshman All-American at Sacramento State. He threw for a ton of yards and had great production there that led to going to Fresno State where he started a handful of games. But I think he's going to come back here and have some success. And I like their coach, Alonzo Carter. I think he's a perfect hire here. I'm not saying it's going to be great year one because this team was built to be an FCS independent, and I'll get into what that could lead to when we talk about the negative and what I think could be the biggest detriment potential. But this is a guy who's applied for the head coaching job at Sacramento State every time it's been open while he's been a coach, and I just think that story is so cool that he wants to be the head coach of this program. I think that just says a lot. And when you have a guy who wants it, like just absolutely wants to be there, I think he's just going to build it into a winner. Like I said, this year it might not happen. I think they have to find like their niche and their role in the new MAC because let's face it, I mean California is not the Midwest. It's different brands of football. I mean we're being completely honest, obviously. I think they make this move with something else in mind in the future, but we'll see what transpires there. But at the same time, like I think that this team can have success moving forward because they're going to be the quote unquote small school in the state of California for the FBS. And I think that really helps them recruiting at the high school level. And I think that they're going to be able to get some guys from the high school level that they might not have been able to get in the past, and even some transfers coming back that I think are going to be. I think that this team moving forward is going to be able to.
Yeah, for sure. Like you like when you see a lot of people in leadership who really are just behind this program. They want this program to succeed. They are looking forward to seeing that happen. You can feel the excitement. So there's just so much excitement for them this year. And I think their fans are really happy to be at this level, and even though they're getting used to all these Midwestern foes, and going to Mount Pleasant in mid-November might not be fun. I do think there's a lot of excitement there. And like you said, like Carson House is back. I think that was huge. It's always really good night to the pros. We're starting to see a trend now. We start to see more guys. And it turns out to really work successful when one shows the business work. Probably had no idea when kind of focused the second and third. I'm glad to see this out. I think some of the people college they brought in for his therapy is also this. Maybe they might be a cool because the ego has. That'll be kind of pretty cool to see. Concern wise, he was not there.
I think the thing that I look at with them that could be a detriment, what I was kind of saying before about like this team was built to be an FCS independent. They didn't make the move until after the transfer portal. So normally the thing that you can see the biggest difference between FCS and FBS, besides like North Dakota State when they were a member and all, is the in the trench. There's going to be a difference between looking at Sacramento State in the trenches and looking at say even the top teams in the MAC like Western Michigan and Toledo in Miami, Ohio, and some of the other teams that are at the upper level of the MAC. There's going to be a big difference, and that could be a spot where they really struggle on the offensive and defensive side, getting pushed around a little.
Yeah, agreed. Like, really, just in general, the trenches are concerned just even from the beginning, but also when you're dealing with the grind of the FBS schedule week to week, especially in a pretty conference like this, it's going to be that the depth is also a huge problem. Like, if they run into a series of injuries, it gets really scary really quick. It's just how you're undersized and unproven. So that's going to be a huge challenge. And of course, these ranchers are going to be doing throughout the year. So that's something to watch for.
Exactly.
So what was success look like for Sacramento State in the first FBS season?
Well, even in the Big Sky, when they were a member of the Big Sky, they weren't like. I mean, they were good. They were good, but they weren't like Montana State. Good. So this is a jump. So I look at it and I say like, okay, 3 or 4 wins. I think you feel good about that. I think you just need to show week in week out that you at least belong on the field with these teams. And as you can build your roster moving forward, that's when you can really look at okay, we're taking steps in the big steps, I should say, in the right direction, getting to bowls and stuff like that.
Completely. Like, I think just looking competitive, winning some games, like you want to go completely defeated. But I think those little positive signs can help. Maybe even, because on the flip side, their home games are long road trips to the teams they're playing. Maybe pull off a nice little home up somewhere against like an Ohio or Toledo. I think you pull one of those off, and all of a sudden feels more like you belong. Even if that upset is in like a 3 9 years. You look at Kennesaw State a few years ago, especially when Chile Kelly was first year, but they upset Liberty. That felt like a huge moment, and then they started out on top of Chile State this year.
Exactly.
I think real confident they're going to be the big team this year, especially as looking trying to adjust to FBS and the coaching tools that happen because they're really thought they work on FBS, all of that. So that's what I'm looking at.
Exactly. I agree. Absolutely. You need to beat UMass. You need to beat Mississippi Valley State. Maybe you get a win against Kent State on national TV. I think that's the day before Halloween. I think it's like you said, find a way to steal a game or two here.
Agreed. Next, we go to the Toledo Rockets. You mentioned Jason Campbell a little bit earlier. He is now gone. Toledo begins a new era here. What excites you the most about this Rockets?
They have some really talented players that they brought in. They retained some good players too, but like, there's some really, really solid guys coming in. Like you look at like Andrew Zook at defensive end. He was the FCS Defensive Player of the Year. Like they got some dudes. Like I know that people think it's a huge, huge jump from FCS to FBS in certain circumstances. It is, but like some of these guys they brought, their head coach coming from Mercer, Mike Jacobs, was extremely successful there. The offensive numbers they put up were fantastic. I think that'll continue. Like there's a lot of new stuff here, but at the same time, like, I just think that you have pieces in place that you feel really, really good about. And this program won at such a high level under Jason Candle that I think that that's just going to continue when you hire a guy who's been successful, he's been a winner, and I think that that just carries over. That game at Michigan State week one is very, very intriguing to me. New coaches for both programs. Michigan State hasn't been good for a while. Toledo has been good, so I'm intrigued by that matchup and just the pieces that Toledo has across the board.
Yeah, and we know Toledo can definitely create some noise. I mean, 2 years ago they destroyed Mississippi State, ran them off their own field. Last year, you feel like if they didn't make so many mistakes, they probably would have beaten Kentucky. So Toledo always brings it. When you have them on the schedule, you're in for a tough game. The phones in this program are really good. I mean, Mike Jacobs is a great hire to not only sustain it, but even build upon what Jason built because he is, and really like to mix. I like the construction and that too. If you've got a lot of guys, you can get them or with them mostly, but then also you mix those the local ties. You discover places from around Northwest Ohio, like Jacobs did, and like for example, if you hire start D2 coaches who or like for example, Harry Allen is really successful Henry this time on the staff. Small moves like that that really this staff is going to look really good down the road. Really expecting this
I think you have whenever you have this much roster turnover, you initially have questions. There's good players, like we said. I mean, I'm not questioning this coaching staff. I'm not questioning like players and such, but at the same time, like you do have to plug all these guys in, and it has to like gel and come together quickly. And I think that it helps that you bring in a lot of guys from Mercer that know what Coach Jacobs and a lot of the other coaches are expecting. But at the same time, like, there's one, maybe two returning starters on this whole team, and I think that you're asking a lot for a bunch of guys just to come together and gel real quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking the exact same thing where you have a lot of new and there's always a lot of risk that comes with that. And I think this year you're hoping to see them execute a little bit clearer. They just were not always consistent last year. Just had some games where turnovers really, especially in the offense, just kind of, gave them a hard time. Or I think last year was the Washington State game as well. That one was a nasty one. Western Michigan, where the offense is back that consistency. So you like to see that in favor. Otherwise, I mean, this is looking like a pretty good team. What does success look like in year one?
I think a good year is playing for the MAC championship. Honestly, I mean, I think this team is more than capable of doing it. But at the same time, like you got to get all these new guys to gel. So I mean, you went 8-5 last year, 6-2 in the league. I think they can absolutely do that again. I don't question that at all. So I think that that looks like another good year. As long as you're competing to play in the MAC championship game, I think that that's a productive.
Agreed for sure. Like I expect them to be in the mix, but like
Mhm.
you said, 8-4 doesn't look bad either. Even if you take some lumps early on, because their non-conference slate is not, it's full of opportunity, and I like to say that like when the schedule's tough and all the games are winnable, full of opportunity, but also pretty challenging. Like you've got Michigan State, that's winnable. It's still going to be tough. They're underdogs. Still need to state comes to town. That one's going to be pretty challenging. Challenging. And then Temple can even be improved this year. That was a home as well. So still vote was pretty challenging. Even you got the slow start, but still just a cool conference. I think that still feels pretty good. But definitely no reason to lose.
I think playing San Diego State is going to be tough because this is my personal opinion. I think that that team's going to be really, really good. They might have the best running back in the group of six. Like that's going to be a really good team with a guy who knows to coach against the MAC and Sean Lewis. So that's a game I'm really excited about seeing how that.
Shameless plug that we'll be doing a Pac-12 preview together as well. So yeah, so if you enjoyed this, Pac-12 preview is also kind of. But yeah, definitely going to be a tough guy with last year. So yeah, think I think overall though, like you're looking at a pretty good year for Toledo. Next on the list, we have the UMass Minute Man. Well, obviously last year was last year. To put it in the past. I think it's just there's enough balance on the negatives, like usually what comes up. So let's go extend on the positives and we can kind of brush by the negatives. What do you think about what expects you to look at?
Well, it can only go on. You would they played two FCS opponents this year. You would hope that the unthinkable wouldn't happen from that perspective. I think that the thing that I look at this team, like I think they have some pieces on defense. They returned two linebackers, two safety. So I think that there's pieces on the back end of the defense that you feel some confidence. Whereas last year you might not necessarily had confidence in much any. Be interesting to see how the quarterback situation shakes out. But at the same time, like I said, I think the back end of this defense, there's some guys where you're like, okay, we had got some guys that have some experience. They've taken some long, but at the same time, they should be another year developed. They should be used to what we're going to be asking them to do. So after that Rutgers game, you play Sacred Heart and Stonehill, and you should be able to feel good going into that about what you have, at least on the defensive.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go offensive with mine.
Okay.
I'm very excited about Pop Watson. I think he's going to be, well, I've heard in my good sources that he's been the guy since day one, basically.
Hmm.
Maybe keeping that on the rack a little bit, but he has been the guy. I think he's shown he's performed well in the bowl game a few years back. I was really opposed to the game. He comes here, it feels like he's the guy that's going to bring a lot of confidence, a lot of much needed confidence. I mean, and then word of what you said about the spring game and stuff. You can take it that of what you will, but at the same time, I think it's really helped UMass have a guy that comes in with that much confidence. I mean, it's on defense as well. Murray is, I'm really excited to see another year. It's good to have your quarterback on the offensive side or your quarterback on the defense side. You've got leadership on both sides that are going to benefit the school, right?
What I mean, you look at this team and you just question leadership, and I'm not just saying head coach. I mean, I think it's a tough situation for everybody involved. I think that the issue at UMass is from the top down, from an institutional perspective. You just need leadership that's all aligned, and they have that major issue with that. And until they're aligned, like you're just not gonna have success. Like it's just not possible. As a UConn fan, that was part of UConn's struggle for so long. So many new presidents, new ADs. UConn went through a stretch where there was constant change and turnover. UMass needs change so they can get headed.
Yeah. I feel like we're starting to see, and maybe I'm the optimist here, but I feel like we're starting to see winds of those change kind of coming through a little bit. But it's still definitely a work in progress. And I mean, haven't had an FBS season above 3-9 yet. So there's definitely a lot of work to be done. I think they've got a good head coach. I mean, he brought Lane to the FBS semifinals years back. Again, like there's kind of exciting pieces here. I think last year they just kind of left the kind overall. But and this year you've at least got some guys that you can look at. I don't get it started.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think they just kind of glossed over the concern points that we go 1-12 and not really competitive the most of the game. There's a lot of concerns to be had. We don't need to punch them while they got. But let's get to like what the success is like for you.
Well, I mean, I think obviously you got to win your FCS games. Like you can't. They lost to Bryant last year, and Bryant was not. You need to beat Sacred Heart and Stonehill. You have to. And then I think that there's other games on the schedule where they can beat teams. You have Ball State at home. I think that's a potential winnable game. Can you go to Sacramento State? Maybe win that one. There's other games here as well. I think the biggest thing though, yeah, you want to win 3, 4 games, let's say, but at the same time, just show progression. I think is the key. Show that you can be a competent offense at the FBS level. Because last year that was certainly not the case. get some stops defensively, string some stops together as a defense, show improvement, I think is big. And then I think if you do show improvement, I think you can win 3 or 4 games. And I think that that would be a major step.
That stretch of playing the two FCS opponents, Stonehill and Sacred Heart, and then playing Sacramento State, that is a 3 game stretch the UMass has on the schedule. If you get past the Rutgers opener, you got 10 days until your next four. That is going to be huge. I think if you go like go win those three, you're 3-1, and that is the most excitement for UMass football that's been around in I don't even care about the rest of the year at that point. Like I think that's a successful season.
Hmm.
That kind of excitement, kind of taking care of business in things that you feel like you should win, playing the FCS opponent, playing the team that's just converted from FCS. Like I think you could feel good at that point. And really the rest of the way it's just about being following apart like you did. Whoever wins beyond that point definitely the bonus. Like if you get a ball for game at home, 4-8, that's your best. Even all of a sudden, you can yeah. I think that Cleveland stretch is going to be huge.
I agree. I don't mean this as a shot, but like, don't set fireworks off when you make a field goal against NIU when you're down 40, like stuff like that. I mean that in all seriousness, though. Just look respectable as a program and be respectable on the field. I think that that's like the biggest jump that they
Agree completely. Like, I think their fans wouldn't even disagree with that. I think they've been frustrated with the upper tier of management with the program for a long time now. And we would love to see that kind of turn around a little bit because I think UMass fans could get really far behind their program. Like they have a pretty good budget behind them. They just need to get behind and start making sure the right people.
And as a UConn fan, like I want UMass to be a solid program for Northeast football. Like I think it's important that like all these Northeast teams play at a higher level. So I know like there's going to be UConn fans that want UMass to be terrible and such, but like I don't want that. Like I understand it's a bit of a rivalry and such, but at the same time, you want those teams to be good. Like you want everybody in that area to be playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking at a relevant game there where both teams are good, I think that would only bring more excitement in an area that really needs more excitement for college.
Exactly.
So we get to our last team here. Hopefully not least, the Western Michigan Broncos. There we go. Defending back champions. They come in looking for a repeat. What are your thoughts on the Broncos?
They've won 10 of 11 games to end the season last year. Like this team is a good football team. The way they ended last season, that performance they had in the Myrtle Beach Bowl was like the start of that game. Like I've had some friends play on that team last year that I've like interviewed and talked with, and I still talk. And like I asked them like after that game, I'm like, what was it like just to be in a game where you just kicked off and you're up 3 scores? Like
Right.
like that is just that performance they had in that first half was like even the first quarter was remarkable, and just the way that that defense played down the stretch last season was fantastic. I absolutely love Jalen Buckley at running back. I think he's fantastic. I think they have receivers that you can feel good about. Brock Lowry showed development as a quarterback. I think the thing that excites me the most, though, about this team, and I'm a little biased here because I know one of the guys in the secondary really well, but I think that this secondary is going to be really, really good. Jarveris Sims, that's one of my guys, like good dude, but he's a really good player. I know he's on NFL Scouts radar as a potential draft. And Western Michigan's had multiple defensive guys drafted over the past handful of years, and I think that that could continue this year. Like I think that this is a team that you look at from offensively, defensively perspective entering the season that you feel the best out of like all the pieces combined.
Absolutely. Like it's really cool seeing a back program have this much continuity on any part of the team, really. Just like so many key guys coming back, Jalen Buckley coming back, Brock Lowry coming back. Wow, this offensive line, this big, strong line coming back. Those are all so huge. And like you said, the secondary looks really good as well. There's definitely Brock Lowry.
So that's really cool. What if those roll up there? That's what we feel like reflected, you know.
I wonder, the one thing I wonder though with this team is like, are expectations too high? It's very hard to repeat in the MAC. That's why it's so amazing what Miami, Ohio has done going to the consecutive MAC title games that they've done. You just don't see teams repeat in the MAC. And I think that there's an expectation that this Western Michigan team is good. I don't want to say just going to do it because it's not that easy, but I think that there's just an expectation that they're just going to be in the back title game playing for it just because of all the pieces they have back, and they should absolutely. But you just don't walk on the field and do it, especially in the MAC where it's so competitive.
Agree completely. Yeah, I guess that kind of, that transitions us right to areas of concern. Is that your biggest, or do you have another one?
Yeah, that was it for me. I mean, I think the other one you could maybe mention is the front of the defense. The front end of the defense is going to have all new starters. They lost like a great deal of production there, some NFL players and such that have moved on. You mentioned the offensive line. I just want to add to like there's NFL players on that offensive line. So this offensively, this is going to be a really good football.
I agree completely. And on the defensive line, they were tremendous last year. I mean, they were one of the top teams in terms of sacks last year in all of college football. You don't just lose players up front, like you're losing really good players. And, I think it's a huge compliment to the program. Losing the defensive coordinator to the NFL is also tough. So that definitely is going to be something. I think they can come out of the NFL will probably do still a good job of that. That's still an area of uncertainty at this point of view. But really, what's that here? This thing is just spooky up on they did last year with like, people kind of had middle of the pack or they did in conference. Now everyone is looking quickly for the town. This is the thing to do. They do this last year. Where you start going defense. That would be a big thing. They won games, but they also is constantly you see sort of things flip around a little bit, or you could see them kind of fall out of them. So what's else? This is a tricky one here. What does success look like in front?
Nothing short of playing in the MAC championship, honestly. I mean, I think with everything you have back, you just like look at this roster and you just say like, this is the best team on paper in the MAC. And they proved it last year what they did on the field, winning 10 of 11 down the stretch. Like personally, I just kind of expect and think that they'll be back there. So I mean, I think it's MAC title or bust.
Yeah, it's hard to put that expectations, especially on like a MAC team. At the same time, you're, you know, you're not just a defending champion. Like you are bringing a lot back from that team. So that kind of sets the standard there. It's lofty expectations, but something that you don't get even with the things vessel, like you don't get that kind of continuity in the office. Everything is short of the MAC title. This kind of feels like a little bit of a disappointment. We didn't really feel things and I don't think that looks bad or anything, but it's just it's one of those things. It's such a great opportunity to hit you.
Right, I agree. I mean, I just think he brings so much back that you just, like I said, you're not just gonna do it. Like you got to go prove it. But I think it's like kind of.
Agreed. Now it's time for us to do the improvement. Our little prediction segment here at the end. Who is your sleeper this year?
I think I let that slip a little bit. I think it's Central Michigan. I just love Coach Drink, the mentality they instilled in that program. I think that they're going to make a major step this year at CME. Could be potentially playing for something special.
Yeah, potentially. I'll go with a different name here, and I will exclude my Bowling Green Falcons from this. So avoid being biased. I'm going to go with the Akron Zips. I really like what this offense is going to have. I think this team could definitely be a big factor here.
That was going to be my next pick. I agree. I think like the skill players on that offense, I'm excited to see what that unit looks.
Agreed. And now our max goes to picks.
I'm going to go Western Michigan to win, but I'm going to have them play Central Michigan. I'm that high on Central Michigan where I think that they make it. I think the reign of Miami, Ohio going to the consecutive MAC title games ends this year. I say that and it very well could happen. I know how hard it is to repeat in this conference, but what Western has back is just I don't think you can really.
I love it. Uh, I actually did not think that we would have any single teams in the MAC title, but we do. And this is going to be kind of crazy because neither one of us is going to have Miami in it. I'm going to go with Central Michigan over Toledo. I'm really going to take my shot here. A similar guy of Central Michigan compared to what Western Michigan was last year. I thought last year Western Michigan was a competitor. They kind of stood up that fifth spot of the season poll. I'm not saying they can still take the Central Michigan this year. So that's the preseason poll. I also did not consider them a sleeper because I considered them a contender. I also took the loss to win the back this year. We didn't get there as well. I feel like in general, like you see a lot of pick four matchups, like I didn't think it's like the Michigan well dominated Toledo, but I feel like Toledo is the team that I keep thinking like the third or fourth spot. Maybe in the game at higher.
I'm just excited to see this conference play out, like because I think that this conference is so competitive from a perspective of I think there's teams that go 4-8 in this conference every year that could very easily be 6-6. There's these teams are so close; they all know each other, and I know that you've added some teams in Sacramento State and UMass. But at the same time, I think the top half of this league is very good, and I think the middle of the are just teams that can beat anybody on any given. Plus, when you play midweek, crazy things happen. So I just think it's just fun to watch this conference, and I know I grew in the right smack dab in the middle of it, so it's just something I've always enjoyed. But at the same time, even now, trying to be impartial as I just love.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you aren't familiar with us, like if you're tuning in to us for the first time, I mean, we pretty much live and breathe the MAC here. We went to school in the MAC program. I know I grew up watching MAC football, especially on the 2003 MAC. You can look that up. That was quite the year for the conference. But yeah, like I've always enjoyed this conference. Oh, and the episode, well, before, well, anyway, there's going to be a little bit of, announcement here, but I think either, we currently have a back here in podcast space or a weekly back podcast. So, we'll see what we will be rolling out next month. We'll do a half hour back podcast, lunchtime every month. So look out for that. And Bob, thank you for joining us tonight. It was an absolute blast talking about this topic. If people are seeing the first time, where can they find you?
Well, again, thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate it. I know that we've had different discussions and different sports even, and I hope that continues because I love talking about just football and basketball. But you can follow folks can follow me on Twitter X at TNT College Football One. You can follow my listen to my podcast TNT College Football Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm wrapping up my breakdown series where I break down all 138 teams, and it's obviously quite the undertaking. I mean, it's just me myself, so but it's at the same time it's a labor of love, and I love.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. I know, the similar spot like we mentioned at open in the episode. It's definitely a lot of work, but it's very rewarding to provide fans, an insight of the team. Thank you for joining us tonight and have a good one, everybody.